Shalom, brothers and sisters. Now, this next one, I honestly did not see coming. I'm not a fan of Lapid at all, and the way he was just weakening Israel and running them into the ground. And with him being out and Netanyahu being in, I was actually looking forward to not seeing him again. He can get back to his journalism and stuff that he knows how to do instead of politics, which he doesn't have any experience in. But now, Lapid's call to disobey next government has put civil society at risks, according to legal analysts. Now, this is interesting. The danger to democracy comes from a different corner, namely the actions of outgoing Prime Minister Yair Lapid, who called on local authorities to flout the incoming government's directives. In a December 1 open letter, Lapid urged Israeli municipalities not to cooperate with an educational department to be headed by far-right Knesset member Avi Maoz. Maoz is the sole representative in Israel's parliament of the Noam party, which focuses on social issues, on which it takes a traditional, detractors would say archaic, but traditional religious stance. It's criticized for opposing LGBTQ rights. This is why Lapid is upset. The opposition coalition set to establish the next government has abandoned the education of our children and handed them over to the most extreme and darkest elements in Israeli society. The religious, apparently, are the darkest. Lapid wrote to the municipalities, labeling Noam as racist, homophobic, and dangerous. I urge you not to cooperate with the Unit for External Programs and Partnerships in the Ministry of Education as long as it is under the control of Maoz. The heavy responsibility for the educational content our children will learn from the schools now passes to you, he wrote. Lapid found a ready ear, unfortunately. More than 50 mayors and local authorities signed an open letter last week addressed to Netanyahu, in which they said they wouldn't take part in a curricula that contradicts humanistic values in the state educational law. Maoz denounced the attacks in a press conference on Monday, labeling it an attempt to prevent the Prime Minister designate from forming a sole legitimate elected government. Netanyahu on Friday criticized Lapid for attempting to incite rebellion amongst army officers and mayors against the elected government. So he's even trying to work up army officers against the new government that's coming in. Simcha Rothman, a Knesset member from the religious Zionism party, which Noam ran from the November 1 election, said Lapid has broken the law. It is illegal to call on municipalities not to cooperate with the governmental unit because you disapprove of the elected government and the minister in charge. It is a criminal offense, and a prime minister who just lost the election doing so is worse than the attack on the US Capitol. So there's an interesting connection they're pulling through there in Israeli media. Lapid's remarks encourage lawlessness. It's his rhetoric approach in general. He describes the other side of the political aisle as the forces of darkness. And now that he's lost, Israel is not going to be democratic anymore. Democracy depends on Lapid winning. These kinds of things encourage people to take the law into their own hands, and that's dangerous for any political leader. Essentially, he's saying, boycott the elected government. That's just not done in democracy. You can, however, voice your disapproval. So interesting hand that Lapid is playing here in outright sabotage. And will he get locked up or tried? Probably not, because Israel at this stage feels that the law has been compromised by all of the politics consistently going on and being dragged into it. So he'll probably not be smacked over the hands or anything. It'll be a war of words. But an outright attack on the new government coming in before it can even be formed, that is what is occurring at the moment. So very interesting. It's an attack to try and keep the government weak just before everything slots into place for the 7 years ahead. So we'll watch this one closely and see what develops further with Lapid and Netanyahu. Gantz, however, also playing his role with Lapid. Keep watching, and we keep waiting. God bless, and shalom.